Good Friday, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Conversation Daily News. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. Well, we made it to the end of another week, and can you believe the beginning of a new month? So welcome to July. We, of course, have your news headlines coming up on this Friday, with a message from my book, Words I Choose to Live By. And in today's Entertainment Spotlight, you've heard of my conversation with tire safety expert Russell Shepard of Michelin, discussing the tips for getting out on the road. Enjoy today's broadcast. For Conversation Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with your Friday headlines. In national news, Supreme Court limits EPA in curbing power plant emissions. In a blow to the fight against climate change, the Supreme Court on Thursday limited how the nation's main anti-air pollution law can be used to reduce carbon dioxide emissions from power plants. By a 6-3 vote, with conservatives in the majority, the court said that the Clean Air Act does not give the Environmental Protection Agency broad authority to regulate greenhouse gas emissions from power plants that contribute to global warming. The decision, said environmental advocates and dissenting liberal justices, was a major step in the wrong direction, a gut punch, one prominent meteorologist said, at a time of increasing environmental damage attributable to climate change amid dire warnings about the future. The court's ruling could complicate the administration's plans to combat climate change. Its detailed proposal to regulate power plant emissions is expected by the end of the year. Though the decision was directed to the EPA, it was in line with the conservative majority's skepticism of the power of regulatory agencies, and it sent a message on possible future effects beyond climate change and air pollution. The decision put an exclamation point on a court term in which a conservative majority, bolstered by 3 appointees of former President Donald Trump, also overturned the nearly 50-year-old nationwide right to abortion, expanded gun rights, and issued major religious rights rulings, all over liberal dissent. President Joe Biden aims to cut the nation's greenhouse gas emissions in half by the end of the decade and have an emissions-free power sector by 2035. Power plants account for 30% of carbon dioxide output. Capping carbon dioxide emissions at a level that will force a nationwide transition away from the use of coal to generate electricity may be a sensible solution to the crisis of the day, Chief Justice John Roberts wrote in his opinion for the court. But Roberts wrote that the Clean Air Act doesn't give EPA the authority to do so, and that Congress must speak clearly on this subject. A decision of such magnitude and consequences rests with Congress itself, or an agency acting pursuant to a clear delegation from that representative body, he wrote. In a dissent, Justice Elena Kagan wrote that the decision strips the EPA of the power Congress gave it to respond to the most pressing environmental challenge of our time. Kagan said the stakes in the case are high. She said the court appoints itself instead of Congress or the expert agency, the decision maker on climate policy. I cannot think of many things more frightening. In more national news, Jackson sworn in becomes first black woman on Supreme Court. Ketanji Brown Jackson was sworn into the Supreme Court on Thursday, shattering a glass ceiling as the first black woman on the nation's highest court. The 51-year-old Jackson is the court's 116th justice, and she took the place of the justice she once worked for. Justice Stephen Breyer's retirement was effective at noon on Thursday. Moments later, joined by her family, Jackson recited the 2 oaths required of the Supreme Court justices, one administered by Breyer and the other by Chief Justice John Roberts. With a full heart, I accept the solemn responsibility of supporting and defending the Constitution of the United States and administering justice without fear or favor, so help me God, Jackson said in a statement issued by the court. In more national news, all eyes on airlines as July 4th holiday weekend nears. Airlines that have stumbled badly over the last 2 holidays face their biggest test yet of whether they can handle big crowds when July 4th travelers in the nation meet the nation's airports starting today. Problems were popping up well before the weekend, with some disruptions caused by thunderstorms that slowed air traffic. American Airlines canceled 8% of its flights on Tuesday and Wednesday, and United Airlines scrapped 4% of its schedule both days, according to FlightAware. In entertainment news, Mary J. Blige's next artist in Apple Music concert series. Mary J. Blige's 2022 is going pretty well. Her new album landed in the top 10 on Billboard's R&B hip-hop album charts, and she was featured at the Super Bowl halftime show. Now she's been tapped for a concert like no other. Blige will host a one-night-only live performance to celebrate her life and music that will be available to stream exclusively on Apple Music in over 165 countries. The concert is set for July 27th at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. And finally, in business news, stocks slump, closing out worst quarter since early 2020. Wall Street racked up more losses for stocks on Thursday as the market closed out its worst quarter since the onset of the pandemic in early 2020. The S&P 500 fell 0.9%, its fourth consecutive drop. The benchmark index is now down 21% since it hit an all-time high at the beginning of the year. It entered a bear market earlier in June. All told, the S&P 500's performance in the first half of 2022 was the worst since the first 6 months of 1970. Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. It's now time for a message from my book, Words I Choose to Live By. Enjoy. Good Friday and welcome to Words I Choose to Live By. You are amazing. Do not accept any less for yourself or from yourself. You can make an impact starting now. Have an amazing Friday and enjoy your weekend. Russell Shepard of Michelin is featured in today's Entertainment Spotlight right here on Conversation Daily News. For Conversation Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with the Entertainment Spotlight. Tire safety expert Russell Shepard of Michelin joined me on Conversations Live, the radio show, to give you guys some great safety tips as you're heading out on the road. Here's a bit of our conversation.
This is an important time, of course, for our audience. A lot of them are getting out and about, starting, of course, their summer trips. Tell us, Russell, when it comes to going on the road, what are some things we should think about when it comes to getting our vehicles road ready?
So there are two things that you should think about when you're getting your vehicle ready for the road and for those summer road trips and beyond. One is make sure you can see. Simple thing, make sure that your wiper blades function well. Check and make sure if they need to be replaced, replace them. And while you're at it, check your wiper fluid so that you can keep your windshield clean when it's raining or if you get on a road trip, something like bug accumulation. So make sure you can see. The second thing to do is make sure you're ready to roll. And what do I mean by that? I've been a tire engineer for over 20 years, and it comes down to one crucial thing. The only thing between you and your family and the road are your tires. So make sure your tires are ready to roll.
Russell, that is such a good point. I'm going to go back to the windshield wipers for a second because I think that's one of the things we don't think about till we have to use them. Once that moment passes, right, it's like, okay, you know what? I know I need to replace those, but I'll have time to do it, before I need them again. But that is such a great tip. And speaking of the tires, though, and this is one of the things, especially here in the South, where it gets pretty hot. We're reminded to check our tire pressure regularly. Why is that so important to make sure we're doing, especially before hitting the road, Russell?
So that's a fantastic question. And one thing I'll say is when you check your tire pressure, make sure you check it when the vehicle has been sitting for a couple of hours. But why is it important? Because it makes sure you ensure that you get the most out of your tires.
Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. We thank you all for tuning into this edition of Conversation Daily News. We'll be with you guys on Monday with more news, a message from my book, Words I Choose to Live By, and of course your Entertainment Spotlight. Until then, your host Cyrus Webb saying, as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversation Daily News today. Let's make today amazing. Take care.